There's a cast of characters in the story that are really experiencing this. And if we really look at these people to whom the Lord is coming and what God is doing here in the beginning of Jesus' life, we can learn a lot. How many of you know the Christmas story? If you read it in Luke, it starts with a man named Zechariah. Zechariah is a priest who's going to do his turn in serving in the temple. And while he's in the holy place doing his service. Now get this, because a lot of us, we read this and we think, an angel appeared in his house. He's in the temple. He's in the holy place doing his service, and all of a sudden Gabriel walks out from behind the curtain in the most holy place. And there's an angel, and he's very afraid. And the angel speaks to him and says, don't you worry. You remember you heard about that prophecy about the Elijah who is to come? Your wife is going to conceive and bring forth a son, and he's going to prepare the way for the Messiah, and you're going to call his name John. Zechariah, he can't believe it because Elizabeth is old and she's barren. She's never had a child. And so because of his unbelief, he's mute. You're not going to say a word until the child is born. The child, John the Baptist, is born, and all of a sudden they have to name it. And Elizabeth says, we're going to name him John. And the family says, no, you're not. Zechariah, John's not a family name. John means God be gracious. God has been gracious. Zechariah, what do you say? Zechariah writes it down. Can you see? Got a chalkboard around his neck. His name is going to be John. And when he wrote it and he finally came to terms with the truth within himself, his mouth opened. And he began to prophesy about what his son would do. We've got characters in the story, real people that God did this work in and through, preparing for what he would do as he's bringing his son into the world. And we can learn from each of these. You know what Zechariah's name means? It means the Lord is remembered. You know what we can learn from Zechariah? We can learn that no matter what we have experienced in our life, no matter what we've walked through, God has not forgotten us. That even if we feel like things are beyond the point of being possible, that God shows up in the midst of our impossibility, and he says to us, trust in me, for all things will be possible to those who believe. We learn from Zechariah that the Lord will never forget his promises. We learn from Elizabeth, who was old and barren, that God can move in the barrenness of your life to bring something forth. Remember, he's the God who said, will I not bring forth water in a wilderness? I'll do a new thing. It shall spring forth. He's the one who makes a way where there seems to be no way. It doesn't matter what it looks like, church. It doesn't matter what you're going through, what's going on in your mind or even in your body. Understand this, he is faithful to his promise. And even if you're in the midst of a barren situation, rejoice in the Lord always. Give him praise, because he's the one that's going to make a barren place begin to produce. That's what we can learn from Elizabeth.